But still, Putin and his policies. At the turn of the century,
it became clear that liberal ideas simply failed to take root. Second, it turns out that beneath the surface of Western liberalism, there is actually a vast, deeply rooted and cultivated cultural soil that simply does not exist in other places. Not only is it a foundational cultural soil, it is also a certain profound and essential moral imperative that defines their way of life.
Now, that's not clear.
I'll explain.
Go ahead and explain.
As you can clearly see, there is no democracy without civic spirit.
So far, I see slogans. Right now, you're coming out with slogans. No democracy without civic spirit.
But this...
Explain!
I'll explain why. Because it's precisely not a slogan, unfortunately. It's such an unpleasant, very convoluted philosophy. There is this specific concept of citizenship, and it's virtually impossible to translate into Russian, because there's no tangible reality behind this category.
A sense of being a citizen.
It's close.
Clear, yes?
Close to a sense of dignity.
Yes, yes.
Well, you see, so it turned out that
the Magna Carta.
That the main deficit of Russian culture and Russian life in general wasn't a lack of sausage. The main deficit turned out to be a lack of a sense of dignity, including within the ruling class, the elites, and the population.
They are all your serfs, sovereign.
They were all just serfs back then. As you might already know, H.G. Wells' Russia in the Shadows. That famous meeting he had with Lenin. Uninteresting, it was boring for me to read. I remember one thing. In Moscow, everyone lies. If you don't cheat, you won't be happy behind the wall. If you've cheated big time, it's simply considered an honor and a point of dignity. And people brag to each other about, well, how cool, how great it was that they cheated. This hasn't gone anywhere, you see. And so the 90s, they failed because of this lie. That is to say, in just a single decade, society reached a complete standstill, moral, political, and economic. And all of this is firmly rooted in mythology. And the mythology is this: we were a great people. They've already forgotten what happened over those 10 years, but they remember they were great. And this very simple demand arose, a demand for order, a demand for equality, because colossal inequality had emerged. That was the fundamental problem. A profound feeling of desecrated greatness. A very powerful demand. Yeltsin played a huge role.
Of injustice, I would say.
Injustice, the sense of globe, it's actually integrating. So here we are. You're asking where Putin came from?
Yes.
I'll tell you, it comes from a sense of global, multi-vector and multi-level injustice, felt not only by the broad masses of common people, but already by the elites themselves. And someone simply had to rectify this deep injustice. And since it was so firmly in people's minds, this injustice became closely associated with liberalism, democracy, and the market system.
Chaos.
This actually had nothing to do with them, because I can say in the 90s there was never democracy, in the 90s there was no real market. All of these were, well, sort of like projects.
So you're hitting the 90s? Not yet.
Okay.
We'll return there, I promise you.
There was a demand for the restoration of justice, and this demand was, let's say, anti-democratic, so to speak. Two things: a demand for justice, and at the same time a conviction based on empirical experience that through democratic means, through all these liberal values, freedoms, and so on, it's no longer possible to restore this justice. And here comes Putin